Welcome back. My name is Brijesh and today we are going to look at the chapter number 5 of history, class 8. So in this particular chapter, we will see the chapter when people rebel, 1857 and after. So basically it is talking about the revolt of 1857. We will see the different characteristics and the conditions under which this particular revolt started and how it gradually developed, and later on what type of changes occurred once the revolt was suppressed. Okay, so let us understand all these conditions, all the situation under which this particular revolt got the prominence. So let us look at the conditions. So policies and the people. The policies which we have already seen, the policies related the East India Company's policies related to the different people, kings, queens, peasants, landlords, tribal people, soldiers. We have already seen yesterday also in the previous chapter we have already covered that how they impacted the life of the people, the tribal people who were living in the forest, and prior to that we have understood that how with the different policies such as the annexation policy, okay, and the subsidiary alliance, all these different type of policies was introduced by these Britishers to capture the powers of these kings and the queens, and they always had the higher revenue taxes on the peasants. So cumulatively it created some sort of the environment which was not conducive. So the conditions was not really good for the people who were working in the armies of the British India. Okay, so the sipahis which they hired, so they were also not happy. So why? So we will understand that as well. Let us move ahead and let us talk about the Nawab lost their power. So here we will talk about the different people, kingdoms, and kings and the Nawabs who lost their power. Why? So we will see that conditions as well. Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi wanted the company to recognize her adopted son as the heir to the kingdom after the death of her husband. Okay, so because there was a policy of annexation and there should be a male heir, and since and it should not be adopted. So Rani Lakshmibai of Jhansi wanted company to recognize her adopted son as the heir to the kingdom. Okay, but it was not accepted by these Britishers because they had the plans to annex these kingdoms. Okay, so they never accepted such type of request. And apart from this, Nana Sahib, adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II, plead that he be given his father's pension when they later died. Means when the Peshwa Bajirao died, so he should be given the pension. But this was also denied or was not granted as a permission. Okay, Awadh was one of the last territories to be annexed. So we have already seen that Awadh, though Awadh was annexed, but it was annexed on the basis of misgovernance. Okay, Awadh was annexed on the basis of the misgovernance. So in 1801, a subsidiary alliance was imposed on the Awadh, and in 1856 it was taken over. So we have already seen that Awadh was the last state in 1856 which was taken over on the basis of misgovernance. So Governor General Dalhousie declared that the territory was being misgoverned and British rule was need to be ensure the proper administration. In the name of administration, they annexed this particular kingdom. Okay, the name of the Mughal king was removed from the coins minted by the company. So it was the earlier the coin which were getting minted in Indian subcontinent, and having the name of the Mughal emperor was the matter of pride. But what these Britishers did, that they removed the name of the Mughal king from the coins. Okay. In 1849, Governor General Dalhousie announced that after the death of Bahadur Shah Jafar, the family of king would be shifted out of the Red Fort. So understand, these Mughals who came in 1526 and they made the Indian subcontinent their house. Okay, and they ruled for the somewhere around more than around 300 years, and now they were supposed to be leave their house, the Red Fort. Okay, so it was a huge blow to the prestige of these Mughals. In 1856, the Governor General Canning decided the Bahadur Shah Jafar would be the last Mughal king. So now look all these things, that the type of the policies which were being introduced by these Britishers. Okay, so different governor generals were introducing the different rules, such as the Dalhousie introduced and announced that Bahadur Shah Jafar has to leave the Red Fort, and apart from that, they Canning announced that the Bahadur Shah Jafar would be the last Mughal king, and his descendant would be recognized as the king. They would just be called as the princes. Okay, so these were the changes which occurred in this time. So now the peasant and sepoys, how they played an important role in this particular revolt. Let us understand. Peasant and jamindars, they were high tax, okay, and rigid method of revenue collection were implemented because the Britishers always wanted to collect the highest amount of revenue. Okay, this was the sole purpose of this type of methodology. So the Indian sepoys, they were unhappy because of the multiple reasons, and these have been mentioned here about their payment, about their allowance, conditions of services, new rules which were introduced. Okay, moreover, they violated their religious sensibility and beliefs. So it was a popular, or we can say that the feeling of the or religious feeling that somebody, if that person will cross the sea, then that person will lose their religion or the caste. So it was the basic understanding in that time. So when the sepoys were told to go to Burma by sea route, they to fight for the company, they refused. Why? Because they did not want to lose their caste or their religion, because it was important thing for the people at that time. And today in the contemporary world also we see that how the religion and caste is intertwined with the Indian people. Okay, whether they are belonging to the different religion. Okay, so when today these things are so important, in that time we can understand that how these things must have played a role. Okay, and now the different rules were imposed and they had to follow those rules. So but they agreed to go by using the land route, but not using the sea route. Understand? So they serve. There were the severe punishment for these type of things whenever they disobeyed the all these rules and regulations which were made by these Britishers. Okay, so in 1856, company passed a new law stated that every new person who look up or took up the employment in the company's army had to agree to serve the overseas if required. Okay, so these type of new rules were introduced in 1856. So now we are seeing that what different type of things were getting done it somewhere around 1856, like the annexation of the Awadh and the other state which were also annexed, and the different state which were forced into the subsidiary alliance. So all these things were getting accumulated, and these things were creating frustration in the mind of the people and the other kings and the queens and the people who were serving, whether in the company, okay, or whether they are working on the field. So reasons to reform, or to the response to the reform. So the British believed that the Indian society had to be reformed. So we have already understood that how Britishers always used to think that these people, the Indian people, are not civilized, and to make them civilized, this is the duty of these British people, okay, or the responsibility of the company. Okay, the laws passed to stop the sati, encourage the marriage of the widows, and English language or the education was actively promoted. And after 1830, company allowed the Christian missionaries to function freely in the its domain and even own the land and the property. So understand that now after 1830. Remember this particular timeline, because sometimes straightforward questions can be framed that after which time or after which year company allowed the Christian missionaries to be function freely in the domain of India and to own the land and property. So Now the people who were residing in the Indian subcontinent, when they saw these missionaries, so they must have taken them that these people are going to infringe in the religious affair of these people. Okay, so there was a prominent threat for these people as well. Okay, so in 1850 a new law was passed to make the conversion to Christianity very easier, and this allowed an Indian who had converted to Christianity to inherit the property of his ancestors. So now they also try the different methods to elude these people. If somebody would get converted into Christianity, they were allowed to inherit the property of their ancestors. So all these sort of things were getting done by these Britishers or the company. Okay, so remember this. Now they account has been mentioned, the list of 84 rules. So an account has been mentioned in the book. Somebody has written the book, and the name of the book was the Maja Pravas, written by the Vishnu Bhatt Godse. So he has mentioned the details, that how he got the information that how this particular revolt is going to happen, that he was going to attend some yagya in the Mathura. Okay, and they met some sepoys on the way, and they told them that a massive uphill going to break within 3 days. So there's a story has been narrated that how information has been provided, that there was a meeting of the different rulers of the different principalities, and the king. Okay, and the English were determined to wipe out the religion of Hindus and Muslims. They had made a list of 84 rules. Okay, and announced in the gathering of the big kings and princes in Calcutta. They says king refused to accept the rules and warned the English to fire dire consequences and the massive upheaval if there are the implementation of these rules. So this type of accounts have been provided in this particular book. Okay, and there's another information which has been provided, that there was soon excitement in every regiment. So there was a person with the name of the Subedar Sitaram Pandey. Okay, he was also, you can say that he was compelled by his senior to write a book, okay, about whatever happened in the and how these revolt broke out. So but these are not important, we are just looking at these things so that we can remember the name. The name of the book was the Sepoy to Subedar, written by the Subedar Sitaram. So these are the few important thing in these paragraphs, nothing important. Okay, because these have been written with the perspective of a English person, because this particular person was working in the English army. Okay, hence he had no freedom. Okay, so he must have some sort of influence of these the senior and the English people. So we do not need to go into that. Okay, and let us understand the other things. A mutiny becomes the popular rebellion. How? First, let us, at the right hand side, it has provided information about the mutiny. That what is mutiny? Mutiny is when soldiers as a group disobey their officer. In the army, it is called as the mutiny. So English East India Company faced a massive rebellion that started in May 1857. So from here we will see that how these thread of the different revolt which happened. Let us look at these threads. Okay, so it started in May 1857, beginning from the Meerut. So from Meerut to Delhi, how it proceed. On April 8, 1857, a young soldier with the name of Mangal Pandey was hanged to death for attacking his officer in Barakpur. So remember the name Mangal Pandey. He attacked his officer in Barakpur. Okay, okay. In exchange or as a punishment, he was hanged till death. Some sepoys of the regiment at the Meerut refused to do the army drill. Why? Because of the new cartridges. So suspected of being coated with the fat of cows and pigs. Okay, so this happened on the May 1857, that they refused for the drill. On the 10th May, so these are the all these are the instances which were happening one after another from April, then May. On 10th May, what was happening? So on 10th May, these soldiers marched to the jail in Meerut and released the imprisoned sepoys. All those sepoys which refused to drill, because and they denied to use these cartridge because of the fat of cows and pigs. Okay, so they were released by the people who were revolting. Okay, So they attacked and killed the British officers. They captured the guns and ammunitions and set fire the buildings and properties of the Britishers and declared the war on Firangis. Okay, they used to call these British people or English people as the Firangis. So the sepoys of Meerut rode at all night of the 10th May to reach the Delhi in the early hours next morning. And the regiment station in the Delhi also rose up in the rebellion as soon as they got to know that the different uh, we can say that the different regiments have also proclaimed the revolt. Okay, so they also rose into the revolt, and triumph the soldier gathered around the walls of the Red Fort where the Badshah used to live. Okay, and demanding to meet him. All these people from the Meerut and the Delhi regiments, all these people who were working there as well, so they all got together and they started demanding to meet with the to whom with the Mughal emperor. Okay, they forced their way into the palace and proclaimed the Bahadur Shah Jafar as their leader. So Bahadur Shah Jafar was proclaimed as their leader, and the aging emperor had to accept this demand. He wrote letters to all the chiefs and rulers of the country to come forward and organize the Confederacy of Indian state to fight the Britishers, because he also understood that the situation, because after sometimes any which ways they will these company or the Britishers will force these Mughals to leave the Red Fort. Okay, so if there was an opportunity, they wanted to convert that opportunity. Okay, and he wrote the letters to the different kings and kingdoms who could support him. Okay, so most of these smaller rulers threatened by the expansion of the British rule, many of them felt that if Mughal emperor could rule again, they too would be able to rule their own territories once more and under the Mughal authority. So the interest was similar, that once the Mughal rule will be established once again, then they would also enjoy the some sort of freedom and they would be able to once again rule their territories. Okay, so their interests were matching with the interest of the Bahadur Shah Jafar and the people who proclaimed the revolt. So rebellion spread. How the rebellion spread? So Britishers were routed from Delhi because the people who gathered in the revolt, they were in the huge number. Okay, so the Britishers has to run from the particular vicinity of the Delhi, or the regiment after regiment mutinied and they took off to join the other troops at the nodal points. So nodal points were the Delhi, Kanpur, and Lucknow. So remember these nodal points. Which were the nodal points? Delhi, Kanpur, and Lucknow. So now we will be talking about the prominent figure of that particular revolt. There was Nana Sahib, who lived in the Kanpur, gathered armed force and expelled the British garrison from the city. So a question can be asked that Nana Sahib was revolting in which area? So he was tackling or handling the area of Kanpur. Okay, he proclaimed himself the Peshwa and he declared that he was the governor under the Emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar. So these all things were happening from his side. Okay, nobody appointed him. He himself appointed to himself that I am the Peshwa and I am the governor under the Emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar. Remember this. So Lucknow, Birjes Kadir, he too acknowledged the sovereignty of the Bahadur Shah Jafar. Why? Because all these different kings and kingdoms thought that once again there will be rule of Mughals and they will be allowed to rule with the peace, okay, and with the prosperity. Hence their interests were matching, and these type of they also accepted the sovereignty of the Bahadur Shah Jafar. So his mother, who was his mother, Begum Hazrat Mahal, a prominent figure in the Indian history, Jhansi ki Rani Lakshmi Bai. Okay, so remember this particular name. So as the name indicates that she was having this kind of revolt in Jhansi. Okay, the other figures, she fought British with the Tatya Tope, the general of Nana Sahib. So who was Tatya Tope? Tatya Tope was the general of Nana Sahib. In the Mandla region of Madhya Pradesh, Rani Avanti Bai Lodhi of Ramgarh raised and led an army. Okay, so remember this particular name because most of the times we have heard the different names, but this particular name is very less known, but a very prominent figure in terms of the revolt of 1857. So remember the name of this Avanti Bai Lodhi of Mandla of region of Madhya Pradesh. Okay. So a situation of widespread popular rebellion developed in the region of Awadh in particular. On August 6, 1857, we find a telegram. So there here it has been provided with the information about a telegram which was sent by the Lieutenant Colonel Tytler to his commander in chief. So he was explaining that what was the situation. Okay, so every village is held against us and the Jamidar have been risen to oppose us. So many a times this question straightforward has been asked whether the Jamidars also supported the rebellion or not. So here, as this particular telegram clear cut provide the information that Jamidar also supported these people. Okay, so along with the tenants or the farmers, these Jamidars were also helping. So another figure, Ahmadullah Shah, a Maulvi from Faizabad. So Ahmadullah Shah used to belong from the Faizabad. He raised a huge force for the supporters and came to Lucknow to fight the Britishers. In Delhi, a large number of Ghazis or religious warriors. So Ghazis used to be the religious warrior came together to wipe out the white people. So all the different sect and the people from the different religion were coming together in this particular revolt. So Bakht Khan, so remember this particular name, Bakht Khan, a soldier from the Bareilly, took charge of a large force of the fighters who came to the Delhi. So Bakht Khan was leading he was the prominent figure who was leading. Okay, so the large force of these fighters who were coming from the different parts to Delhi. So in Bihar, old Jamidar Kuwar Singh was uh, holding the banner of revolt. So remember this. So we have talked about the Kuwar Singh from Bihar, Bakht Khan. He used to belong to Delhi, but uh, he was in a way leading these forces who were coming to the Delhi. Okay, we have also seen the Avanti Bai Lodhi, Rani of Jhansi, okay, and Birjis Kadir, Begum Hazrat Mahal. So remember all these names, Tatya Tope, so which we have already discussed. So company fights back. How company will fight back? Company decided to repress the revolt. So how they try to repress or suppress this particular revolt? So reinforcements from the England, they had to bring the reinforcement from the England because they were not able to control by the people who were there because they raised in the revolt. Passed a new law so that the rebels could be convicted with ease. Delhi was recaptured in September 1857. Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Jafar was also sentenced for the life imprisonment. He was captured and he and his wife Begum Zeenat Mahal were sent to the prison in the Rangoon. October 1858, Bahadur Shah Jafar died in Rangoon jail in November 1862. So 1862 is the date when Bahadur Shah Jafar died at Rangoon. Okay, so the British had to fight for 2 years to suppress the massive force of the popular rebellion. Lucknow was taken in March 1858. Rani Lakshmi was defeated and killed in June 1858. So this was the date. Remember this particular timeline, June 1858, when the Rani Lakshmi was defeated and killed. So Rani Avanti Bai, who after initial victory in the Kheri chose to embrace the death because she was surrounded by the Britishers from the all sides. Okay, so she did not have any other chance. So Tatya Tope escaped to the jungle, but he was also captured, tried, and killed in April 1859. The British also tried their best to win back the loyalty of the people. How? They tried to win the loyalty. So they had their way of the allurement and the providing different things. They announced that reward for the loyal landholders would be allowed to continue to enjoy the traditions right over their lands. Those who had rebelled were told that if they submitted to the British and if they had not killed any white people, then they would be remain safe and their rights and the claims would not be denied. Okay, so these were the tricks used by the company or these Britishers. So aftermath, what happened after that? The Britishers had regained the control of country by the end of 1859 and the changes were introduced. Okay, So there are 5 or 6 changes which were introduced. So let us read one by one. So first change was the British Parliament passed a new act in 1858 and transferred the powers of the East India Company to the British Crown in order to ensure more responsible management of the Indian affairs. So remember this particular date. In 1858, with the act passed by the Parliament, they transferred the powers of East India Company to British Crown. Okay, so this could be a question, a straightforward question in prelim. In which year the powers of the East India Company was transferred from them to the crown, British crown? It was 1858. Okay, a member of British cabinet was appointed as the Secretary of State for India and made responsible for all matters related to the governance of India. To take care of the governance of India, a particular person, a British cabinet person was appointed, okay, Secretary of State, and he was given a council to advise him. And the name of that council was, they used to call as the Indian Council. Okay, so Governor General of India was given the title of Viceroy. Okay, so now the title has been changed of the Governor General. It changed into the Viceroy. That is the personal representative of the crown. So who was the personal representative of the crown in India? It was the Viceroy. So earlier he used to called as the Governor General. Okay, remember this. Through these measures, the British government accepted the direct responsibility for ruling the India. So these are the important changes which happened. So let us read one by one that which were the different type of changes which were made. So in second, all the ruling chiefs of the country were assured that their territory would never be annexed. Okay, in future they were allowed to pass their kingdom to their heirs, including adaptation. Okay. However, they were made to acknowledge the British Queen as their sovereign from paramount. Okay, if they accept this condition, then they would be allowed, and there will be no infringement from their end. Okay, thus the Indian rulers were told these kingdoms as the subordinate of the British crown. Okay, in next it was decided that the proportion of Indian soldiers in army would be reduced and the number of European soldiers would be increased. Okay, it was also decided that instead of recruiting the soldiers from Awadh, Bihar, Central India and South India, more soldiers would be recruited from the Gurkhas, Sikhs and Pathans. Okay, so the land and property of Muslim was confiscated on a large scale and they were treated with the suspicion and hostility. The British believed that they were responsible for the rebellion in big way. Okay. The British decided to respect the customary religious and the social practices of the people in India. Policies were made to protect the landlord and jamindars and gave them security, okay, of the rights over the lands. Thus, new phase of the history began after the 1857. So, this was the importance of the revolt of 1857. So, now we will look at the Khurda uprising. So, Khurda in 1870, Khurda, a small kingdom built up in the late 16th century in the southeastern part of Odisha. So, its king was Raja Bir Kishore Dev had to earlier give up the possession of 4 parganas and superintendence of the Jagannath temple and administration of 14 Garjats. Garjat means the princely state to the Marathas under the compulsion. So his son and successor was the Mukund Deva. He did not like it. Okay. So annexation of his territory by the British, he was only given the rights of the management of the Jagannath temple with a grant amounting to a mere 1/10 of the revenue of his former estate, and his residency was fixed at Puri. But he was not satisfied, which paved the way for a serious armed uprising in 1870. Soon after taking over the Khurda, the British followed the policy of resuming services tenure. It bitterly affected the life of the ex-militia of the state, the Pike. So now it is talking about the people that since Britishers followed the policy of resuming services tenure. Okay, earlier these people or the military people who were working as a military person for the kingdom. Okay, so they had the staple income from working in the state. They used to provide their services. Now the British changes the policy. Okay, so it clearly had an impact on their living, okay, on their salaries. So it also changed their life. Hence, what would happen that they also thought that these Britishers are not good, and they all will also revolt against the Britishers. Now, let us see. The demand of the revenue was very high, as usual, that these Britishers wanted to get the high amount of revenue. Consequently, there was large scale desertion of the people from the Khorda between 1805 to 70. So no leniency was shown even in case of natural calamities, which Odisha was frequently prone to. Okay, so land of defaulters were sold to of the scheming revenue officials or the speculators from the Bengal. Okay, speculators from the Bengal. So these lands were getting sold to the people if the person is not able to pay the amount or the revenue on time. Okay, if they are defaulting, then these type of things were happening. Military commander, there was a person named with the Jagan Bandhu Vidyadhar Mahapatra Brahmabhat Rai or the Bakshi Jagbandhu. So remember the name, this particular name, Bakshi Jagbandhu. Okay, so he had in effect became a beggar. How? Because all these things that that created. Okay, so he used to live the life of beggar. Over the years, what added to these grievances were that the other type of rules which introduced by these Britishers, introduction of the Sikka rupee, silver currency in the region, then the prices of the food stuff such as the salt increase. Okay, they insisted on the payment of the revenue in the new currency which was Sikka. Okay, prices of salt increased because of the monopoly, and the people were denied and making salt and deprived of these type of facilities earlier which were available to them. The auction of local estate in Calcutta brought in absence the landlord from Bengal or Odisha. Okay, so absentee landlord started to come to the Bengal from Bengal to Odisha to purchase these land which was getting auctioned by the Britishers. Okay, the uprising was set off on 29th March of 1870 as the Pikes attacked the police station and other government establishment at Banpur, killing more than 100 men and took away a large amount of government money. Okay, so now they rose into the revolt, and they not only killed but also looted the government money. So the Jamidar riots alike joined the Pikes with the enthusiasm. A non-rent campaign was also started. So April 1817, Bakshi Jagbandhu, leading 5 to 10,000 Pikes and men of the Kam tribe, seized the Puri and declared the hesitant king Mukund Dev II as their ruler. Okay. The priest of the Jagannath temple also extended the Pike their full support. Okay. The British uh, champed martial law. So they claimed the martial law. Why? The king was quickly captured and sent to the prison in Cuttack with his son. So they wanted to control the situation. So they uh, claimed the martial law. Okay. The Britishers and the Major General Martindale to clear off the area from the clutches of the Pikes. In May 1817, the uprising was mostly contained. Okay, because of the all these things, and the Bakshi Jagan Bandhu also submitted he submitted in later on. Okay, so what was happening that the revenue official found to be corrupt, and all these things were happening that outside Khurda it was sustained by the revolts were sustained, but it could not sustain for a longer time. Okay, so by they have to surrender in the May 1825. On their part, the British henceforth adopted a policy of leniency. So these were the changes which happened afterward. Okay, they indulged and forbearance towards the people of Khurda. The price of the salt also reduced, and the necessary things were those price which increased. They were also got reduced. Okay, so corrupt people who were indulged in the different type of things, they were dismissed from the services. Okay. Landholders were restored their lands. The son of King of Khurda, Ramchandra Dev III, were allowed to move to Puri and take the charge affairs of the Jagannath temple with a grant of rupee 24,000. Okay, so in a way, we cannot say that this was a small, just a mere dispute, but to merely call it a pike rebellion, thus it would be an understatement. But it was a proper revolt, because these people they revolted for a longer time. Okay, and the Bakshi Jagbandhu was a prominent figure for this particular revolt. Remember this. So we have understand the different conditions for the 1857 revolt, then how it proceed. There were the prominent figures, we have talked about them as well. So remember all these dates, the name of the prominent figure, how it proceed. Okay, and try to revise and recall. Keep learning. I will see you in the next chapter. Till then, Jai Hind.